Hello and welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to look at a form of a linear equation called general form. Now just to refresh your memory, here's a form we all know pretty well, slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form, intercept, is very useful because it tells us a lot about the line. Y equals mx plus b. We really like this form because there it is. It tells us the slope, and over here this number is where we cross on the y-axis, also known as the y-intercept. So that's a really good form and a form we already know quite well. What is general form? Well, general form looks like this. It's not quite as useful. You have some number times x, then plus or minus some number times y, and then plus or minus some number, and the whole thing equals 0. A, the number in front of the x, has to be positive, and all three numbers, a, b, and c, have to be integers. In other words, they can't be fractions. So these have to be integers. Now this form is called general form, and it looks very neat, but it's not a very practical form. So I'm going to run through a few examples of some of the things you have to do with equations that are presented in that form, and how we get around it. So first example, we might have an equation that looks like this. So 4x minus 5y plus 9 equals 0. And somebody might say, what's the slope of that line? Okay, so how do we do it? Well, the easiest way is just to rearrange this equation into slope-intercept form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 5y to the other side. So it looks like this. Okay, there's my 4x and my plus 9, and my 5y, I've added it so it becomes positive on the right side. Now I'm going to divide everything by the number in front of y, the 5. So that's going to become 4 divided by 5 plus 9 divided by 5. That equals y. Now, believe it or not, it's in slope-intercept form. It's just kind of spun around. What I have here is my mx plus b equals y. Usually we say y equals, but it doesn't really matter. The important thing to note here is there's the slope, the number in front of x. So that's the slope of the line. And we've answered the question. We found out what the slope is. It's 4/5. Good enough. Okay, a little bit of rearranging did the trick. Next question I'm going to do is we're actually going to graph. So I'm going to produce a grid here. Let's just move that grid over a bit. So we're going to work on a grid here, and what we're going to try and do is graph the following line. 3x plus 2y minus 6 equals 0. So in order to produce the graph, probably the easiest way for most questions is to just create a very simple table of values. And I'm going to pick two really easy points to graph. The intercepts, both the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So that means I'm going to plug in 0 for x, figure out what y is, then later I'm going to plug 0 in for y, figure out what x is. That's going to give me 2 points, plot the 2 points, draw a line through the 2 points, and I'm done. So let's get started. I'm going to put 0 in for the x. So that's going to be 3 times 0 plus 2y minus 6 equals 0. Now 3 times 0 is 0, so that's gone. So I have 2y minus 6 equals 0. So I'm now going to solve for y. So I'm going to add 6 to the other side. And then I'm going to divide by 2. So that means y equals 3. So that's a point that's on my graph. I'm going to go ahead and plot that point. 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a point on the line. So now I'm going to figure out the other point. So we figured out the y-intercept. Now I'm going to figure out the x-intercept by putting 0 in for the y. So that's going to give me 3 times x plus 2 times 0 minus 6 equals 0. So that's 3x, and this is now gone because it's 0 minus 6 equals 0. I'm going to add 6 to the other side. So 3x equals positive 6. Then I'm going to divide by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's now my x-intercept. It is at 2, 0. So I'm going to plot that point, and my line goes through these 2 points. It's going to look something like, oh, that's not a very good line. Okay, I'm going to move this line, I think, if I can. Oh, I don't think I can. All right, let's throw that line out and do a new one. Let's just go from one point through the other. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then we'll just put another section up here. There it is. Not exactly great perfection in the artwork here, but good enough. There's my line. That's my graph. And that's good enough. I'm done. And I'm going to call it a day. So with that, we will catch you later.